Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. For those of you who watch quite a few of these episodes, if you know anyone else who would benefit, please share it with them. Now, if you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that I know I'm not talking to myself, and drop a two in the comments if you're watching the recording. My guest for this week is Sabelo Sibanda. He's part of a company that creates startups, and is also involved in machine learning and the blockchain space. He's a founder, he's an engineer, and a developer. Sabelo, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Let's jump straight into the meat. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Sabelo Sibanda? Give us the backstory.
Yeah, sure. So basically, went to school in PE, primary, high school, and some university. Basically, grey boy who didn't play rugby. Spent my time in the library and science club, etc. Have a commerce background. A lot of people don't know. And I'm a self-taught developer. Started, kind of getting involved in a lot of massive open online courses, got to learn how to write a little bit of code, and started my first business in tech 13 years ago now. And yeah, been gainfully unemployed since. And so, hobbies though, I enjoy playing golf, been playing very badly for the last 28 years. I play a little bit of electric guitar and a bit of my keyboard from time to time. But what I enjoy most is actually building products by pressing a couple of buttons into a box. It's a lot of fun.
And other than playing guitar outside of work, what else do you do?
Gosh, that's a very good question. Mostly work. I'm working very hard now on increasing the amount of sleep I get. I really love building stuff. So outside of guitar, definitely I play a lot of my keyboard, and definitely a lot of golf. Definitely a lot of golf. 28 years and counting.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Something that I noticed, I mean, you said machine learning engineer and developer, but you focus on machine learning and blockchain. Now, those two things are very different, but to the uninitiated, they conflate the two. Can you give us maybe a small definition of each one?
Yeah, sure. I suppose machine learning is a very lovely catch-all phrase for technologies that are quite popular now, such as generative AI, deep neural networks, AI, deep learning, etc. Basically, where you're able to give instructions to computers to ingest X amount of information and come out with very positive results, not in a didactic way, but in a way that's a lot more intuitive. We can go into great detail as far as the definitions of intuitive in this context, but you're able to extract incredibly valuable information from the inputs that you give to a particular program using ML.
Okay,
And
makes
then
sense.
blockchain, more specifically, it's as I'm sure everybody knows this definition, that it's a distributed ledger. But what we personally, or rather, what I like about the blockchain is that there's a trustless mechanism underlying that technology, i.e., as and when a transaction is made, it's there forever. So it's traceable, much as cryptocurrencies get all the media attention. The technology, the underlying technology, is quite fascinating, and there's a hell of a lot that you can do with it.
Now, I mean, you decided to focus on machine learning and blockchain from helping startups instead and help setting up startups. There's so much out there, software as a service, from a developer point of view, but you chose to focus on these two. Why the decision just to focus on that?
Well, First of all, because I figured I'm relatively decent at them. I wouldn't say good just yet, still trying to get there. But also, I saw that there's an amazing opportunity to solve some of the most difficult problems in this continent and beyond by leveraging those technologies. So, I figured, what's the highest and best use of one's time? And I figured, let's sit down, really concentrate. And about 8 years ago, went all in on deep tech, very specifically machine learning. And yeah, I mean, the ROI has just been fantastic since.
I noticed, I mean, you're involved in startups and maybe creating startups, but I might have misunderstood because I thought it was also part of investing in those startups. So maybe just clear up because I know what seems is like finding capital seems very difficult to do, and I wanted to know where you find find the capital and where you find the investors. So maybe talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So I started my first business 13 years ago. And this current business is actually a venture studio slash venture builder. For all intents and purposes, it's literally a glorified dev house where we actually own the solutions we built. And then we actually take them to market through a SaaS model. So to answer your question very directly, as far as where one can get capital, there are a myriad of different places to get capital. The wildest thing that I actually have learned over the years is that there's more capital seeking alpha than there are actually, I suppose, funding stage ready startups in this world. So it's everywhere, from high net worth individuals to friends, family, and fools, they call them, to angel investors, to institutional investors, private equity firms, family offices, you name them. So it's just a matter of sitting down, realizing what sort of business you're in, and who is actually interested to partner with you. Because trust me, the last thing you need is only a check, and I put that in asterisks, only a check. So yeah, we can get into a lot more detail as far as that's concerned, but there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Okay. For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end. So please add your questions to the comment section so that we don't miss them. Now, I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, you've got a Google Data Analytics certificate and an AWS certificate, in addition to your degrees from the World Quant University and NMU. Uh, in terms of the job or the work that you do on a day-to-day basis, which of those had the most impact on you?
So that World Quant one, it wasn't a degree, it was a professional certificate. I've gotten just about 52 or 50 odd professional certificates.
Oh, wow.
And I find that with all of these organizations, the likes of IBM, AWS, Google, Salesforce, gosh, SAP, and I know I'm missing one and I'll be in very big trouble. You actually get to learn how to apply your skill onto the actual platform. So I can't recommend professional certifications enough. Of course, university is always good. I'm not about to be one of those tech people who say drop out, and even though I have a very colorful academic past, if you were to ask my parents, but it's incredibly important, and I found a lot more value in these professional certifications that the actual OEMs are offering.
And those professional certificates, are they generally quite expensive or are they accessible for the man in the street?
Um, Unfortunately, it depends. Some are very, 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 very affordable. Others not so much. But of course, by reaching out to these particular companies, reaching out to ourselves as well, I mean, I'd be more than happy to share how one can go about getting the professional certifications. I know I had a chat with the good folks at IBM no more than a week ago. And yeah, literally as a part of these particular companies, there are great incentives to upskill your team and yourself to ensure that you're able to be proficient on their platforms.
Okay. Okay. I know the marketing course certificates at Google are basically free. Is a data analytics certificate free as well?
Yeah, so it depends. I know they're on Coursera and they have a prescribed amount of time to complete. But of course, if you finish them before then you only pay for a month or however long it took. But the longer you take, whether it's on Coursera or edX, it then becomes a function of the amount of time that you've
Yeah.
spent getting the information. Yeah.
I didn't know about the time. That's a good learning. And there, I see also. I mean, you've even got some business school education in there as well. How did you tie that into all your other, which seem mostly tech related, and now this is just one business which is just sitting a little bit separate?
Yeah, I think the more businesses I started over the years, the more I realized simply building a solution and hoping they will come, like it's Field of Dreams. I know it's an ancient movie, but build it and they will come wasn't quite a feasible kind of strategy. It didn't work out well. So especially getting to understand free cash flow and how it works in a particular business, that was, I think, the motivation for just kind of beefing up the tech knowledge of the business knowledge for the business, just to ensure that we have sustainability, we are an attractive prospect for potential investors, and that we could be sustainable whilst working with large corporates. I think that's a very big thing that they look for when working with smaller businesses, that we have the ability to stay the course.
And as you mentioned, you've started quite a few businesses in the past. You mentioned free cash flow, but what has been your biggest learnings from setting up all these different businesses? What's the first thing that comes to mind? I wish I'd known this, or that you can share with somebody who's starting a new startup, or maybe it's their second one and they're making the same mistake.
Wow. It's hard to pin down just one, but
No,
I
a
think the
few. You've
most
got a few.
a bunch of okay, cool. Definitely, I'd say the most important skill to have is sales, the ability to actually communicate effectively what it is that you're doing. Because very often, we get so boggled down on the tech. It's very exciting, it's really cool. So yeah, you want to be able to do that, and then also you want to be able to build it. I think you can't outsource the sales function if you yourself aren't technically inclined, especially in this particular industry. People call BS very quickly. I think nowadays, with the amount of information that's freely available, if one positions themselves an expert, yeah, you'll be put to the test very quickly. So number one, I'd say sales. Secondly, be technically inclined, build the solutions, be involved in the production. So it ends up being this role that sits in between engineering and sales and marketing, as it were. So yeah, those are two skills that are put right at the top. And then of course, being frugal. Frugality is, yeah, without doubt, I think the single most important thing for especially a founder to have, because yeah, of course, if you're able to convert your assets into that free cash flow that we speak about, then everybody's smiling. But if the spending is frivolous, then it's just a matter of time until everything comes crashing down.
And then you mentioned something at the top of the show, and those words stuck with me. You said, "I'm a self-taught developer."
Yes.
Um, does that mean you learn from the certificates? Dive a little bit deeper there, because I want the audience to realize that, I mean, you don't have to have a degree, especially when it comes to things like this.
Sure, sure. So, in this context, what I meant to self-taught, of course, I had all these teachers from Andrew Ng, but they're online. I was able to just press a couple of buttons and then have access to all of this incredible information. So, self-taught, in a sentence, meaning I never studied it at a university. I never went through a physical boot camp, but constantly going through different boot camps. Whenever the curiosity hits, I'll sign up for a particular boot camp in a new programming language, a new technology, a new bit of infrastructure, etc. So yeah, literally, it's just I learned online.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, a lot of people seem to think that I need to go to get like a 3-year degree somewhere, and they don't always realize that actually the information that's in that 3-year degree, especially if it's related to tech, might also be delayed, and you actually might be better off studying all these things that are online.
Yeah, in many cases, yeah. I think it has to be said, my CTO, very good friend, we actually met in university, Dr. Michael Chazi, he's got a PhD in computer science. So I'm not saying don't go to school. Our chief security officer's got a master's from Georgetown University in cybersecurity. So yeah, sure, mine is in my academic background is definitely in commerce, but the tech bit, the ability to kind of not append but amend your skill set to kind of fit the sort of problems you want to solve. Maybe leveraging technology. You don't have to start from the ground up, take 3 years or 5 years, 7 or whatever it takes to get to PhD. It can take good 6 months. I think the single most important thing is to build projects, build things people want.
That's a great one. This is one question I like to ask all my guests. What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Keep going. Yeah, I think it's yeah. I think we all underestimate how much we can do over the long term and overestimate what we can do in the short term. And as a result, when we're looking for instant gratification, folks, and myself included, you start looking for shortcuts. But if you're looking at it from a long-term perspective and saying, let's go about it the long, boring way. That's actually the real shortcut. Just keep going. Stick to the fundamentals. I mean, we look at the VC market right now. There are a lot of businesses that were dependent on cheap and free money, for lack of a better term, borderline free. Actually, let me be quite specific about that. But now we're finding that the businesses that are actually surviving these tough times are those that were fundamentally solid. And these are mistakes I've made myself. So I can definitely say keep going. The long and boring route is often the shortcut. Those little shortcuts here and there tend to lead us to a road of nowhere.
And any last few words from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that, because I'm going through a whole bunch of CVs right now, we're in the hiring phases, without doubt the hardest thing that we get to do. I'd say the most impressive thing to see on a CV is a bunch of projects, a portfolio, stuff that you've actually built, especially from a tech point of view. If and when that's available, gosh, you stand out like head and shoulders above the rest. Somebody could come through, Dean's merit list, fantastic, great work ethic. But if one can actually demonstrate that they know how to build the stuff, it's just incredibly impressive. So yeah, build projects,
Build projects. I think that's a good way to end off the show. The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Sabelo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.